This thing is so quiet, it's amazing.
Hey there, YouTube. This is the Fortress 6-gallon ultra-quiet air compressor only sold at Harbor Freight. It's the newest addition to the Fortress line, seemingly replacing this guy. So we're going to fire this thing up, we're going to run some tests, we're going to go through all the numbers and see if this thing is worth the $200 price tag. All right, here it is out of the box. Well, first impression, I think it's a real handsome machine. I love how all the components are exposed. I love the battleship gray color. But let's take a closer look, check out some of the features, and see what this thing's all about. Start with the front here. You have your tank pressure and outlet pressure gauges. They both go to 225 PSI. You got a nice regulator knob here. More on that later. You got a quick connect here and a quick connect right here. And you got your power switch right here on the side. Notice it says auto and off, not on and off. Auto, off, auto, off. And one feature I really like that I noticed are these two hooks right here. When you're not using the machine, you can use it as your cord wrap, and you can wrap this guy right up in place so it stays out of your way and off the floor. And if you're going to be using a bunch of different air tools, you can use them to rest your tools on when they're not in use. Now come down here and check this out with me. This thing comes with solid rubber feet. They're big, they're square, they're solid rubber. What this is going to do, it's going to prevent this thing from sliding all over the floor, and being solid rubber, they're not going to wear out. That's a nice touch. Now, another great touch is your air filter. Now, see, this thing is exposed right here. So if you need to change your air filter out, you can just pop the cover off like that, and then there's your air filter, and boom, you can just replace it when necessary. No need to take the entire shroud off to get to a foam air filter that you have to wash and replace. This is a lot easier. Now, this is kind of interesting. Your pressure relief valve is kind of hidden behind this front fascia right here. Typically, they're right in the forefront of a compressor, right up front there. But on this one, it's off to the side, kind of hidden in the back. I mean, still functional, just haven't seen that very often. All right, back to the regulator, as I was saying before. So if you open up the regulator like this, you'll see there's this little red ring right here that can spin and butt right up with the regulator knob. Now, essentially, the function of that red piece right there is to stop you from going over a certain PSI. So if you're running multiple tools and you only want to have 90 PSI output, you can set the regulator to 90 PSI, and then you can cinch that red piece right up to it to make sure you don't give it too much pressure. And on the bottom, you have your standard drain valve. It's just a ball valve with a plastic handle there. Pretty standard across the board. All right, now that we've gone over the features of this machine, let's break it in, and I'll show you how. First thing I'll do is put the power switch on off. And then you're going to open up your regulator all the way. So turn it clockwise until you can't turn it no more. And you'll open up that drain valve. And you'll plug it into power. So the book says to run it this way for 15 minutes for the break-in period. So I'll set my fancy timer, we'll fire it on, and check back in 15.
This thing is so quiet, it's amazing.
All right, consider that broken in. Now you can shut the drain valve, close the regulator a little bit. Now that this thing's fully broken in, let's run some tests. First, let's see how quiet this ultra-quiet machine really is. Now, the current decibel reading in the room right now is about 35. So let's run this from a few feet away and see what it says. I'm telling you, it's so quiet. Now we'll test it from standing about 8 feet away. All right, now that we've established that it's a very quiet compressor, let's check the fill time. So let's see how long it takes to get from 0 to the tank capacity of 150 PSI. Ready, go! $247 to fill this thing to 150 PSI. Not the best time I've seen for a 6-gallon compressor, but boy, was it quiet while I was doing it. Now what we're going to do is measure the time from the cut in to the cut out pressure. The cut in pressure is 120 PSI on this machine. Basically what that means, when you're using an air tool and the pressure in the tank drops to 120 PSI, the machine kicks back on to bring it back to 150 PSI, and we're going to measure how long that takes. All right, I'll admit I was a little slow in hitting the stop button there, so we'll call it 40 seconds. So again, not the greatest time, but I don't care because it's so quiet. So let's get real and test out some actual tools. Well, you know that nailers and staplers are going to last all day with this thing. But can it handle a tool like an air saw? Let's find out. All right, so you may be hearing the machine running right now. It did run out of pressure by the time I got to the bottom of this 2x3, but why would you use this saw to cut through a 2x3? I don't know, but it'll do it. And we'll see how this guy does with an air drill. All right, so we know it's good for air drills. I drilled 9 holes and it still had plenty of pressure to go, baby. All right, next thing we'll try is a cutoff tool. This is a piece of hollow pipe. Should be pretty easy, but let's give it a shot. So at the end of the day, this thing just did not have enough beans to cut through this hollow steel pipe. So cutoff tool, not great for this machine. But what about an impact gun? Well, I can tell you right now, this will run an impact gun all day long, no problem. It'll take off lug nuts all day. But the question is, how long can this tank run this tool until it drops below 90 PSI, which is the operating pressure of this tool? Okay, before I give you my final verdict on this compressor, here's what it sounds without it running, with it running, without it running, with it running. Once again, without it running, with it running. All right, the final verdict on this guy, if you're going to use a blowgun, nailer or stapler, impact wrench, a tire inflator, or an air drill, you're good to go. This is a good machine for those applications. But if you're going to be using tools like a cutoff tool or a die grinder, this just doesn't have the power to keep up with the air needs of these tools. But once again, it's a handsome machine. It is very quiet. So if you need something to do small jobs for you and you want something that's nice and quiet, this is the compressor for you. Thank you for watching.